Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel and a warm welcome to my new subscribers and old. Lovely to have your company. I thought I'd pop by today and we'd create another journal page. I'm actually getting quite a nice collection now in my journal. I just love looking through it and having a reminder of what I have created. I love looking through, and this journal is such good quality. The paper is the card is so thick, it really does take that moisture really nicely. So I'm going to work on another page and I'm going to use my little Jolly Arts gel printing plate 5x7. I've actually got this 10% off your total order until Bank Holiday Monday at 11:30 p.m. You don't have to do anything. When you place your order and you go to checkout, 10% will be deducted from your order. And that's until Monday the 5th of May, 11:30. So I'm going to use the jelly plates that, you know, I'm loving this size at the moment because it works beautifully for our projects. So I'm just wondering, should I put this onto... No, I don't. I think it still sticks on there. That's fine. Yes. We'll just make do. So let's put it on the acetate a little bit better so that I can grab hold of that a little bit better. Is that any better? Yes. Right. So I'm actually going to use some paint. So we know that when I'm using paint, we need another piece of card on the side because we may be able to make extra backgrounds. Grab a piece of kitchen roll and then make sure you've either got a microfiber cloth to clean your hands, or I'm using a baby wipe made from the water, no plastics. And let's have a play. So I think I used the gel press on this one. I did. Just lovely. So I'm going to, she says, let's move this up here a little bit. Now I've got to remember not to use too much paint. So I'm going to use a little bit of tangerine. So I've got a little bit of tangerine, Dina Wakley Media Paints. I've got some cocoa. I shouldn't need too much paint. And a little bit of buff. Now you can use any paints you wish, or you can experiment with some inks. So let me move this out of the way because we've got a few bits here just in the way and you're not going to be able to see. Well, miracles. So I'm going to pick this paint up, and the little small amount of buff that I've added on there will just sort of lighten the brown a little bit. So I'm going to take the extra paint and let's just add this to the project here. Now I'm wondering whether that's going to be rich enough. Let's do it again because I'm a total nightmare. So a little bit more of the orange, a little bit more of the buff, and a little bit more of the... No, that was cocoa and this is buff. So what you need is an orange, a brown, and something lighter. That's it. That's it. Let's just make it a little bit more... That's better. A little bit richer. So we're just going to pick these paints up. So we've got a background there that I can create something with. And then let's just move that on the side because I want that to dry. I'm just going to spritz these paints with a little bit of water and just see if we can mop anything up. see, never think that you can't use your painty backgrounds, because that is just wonderful. So I've now got 2 backgrounds. And if I'm ever stuck then, because I don't know what to make, I just go to one of my backgrounds and it's wonderful. And then you ask me how I've made it, and then I think, oh, how did I make that one? But luckily, because I've got it recorded on YouTube, we can just look back. So let's just pick. There we go. We've got 3 backgrounds. So I can then clean this up with a little bit of water, because there's hardly anything on there. And we've got a nice clean up at the same time. So those of you then that don't like to have too much mess, nice and simple, and one advantage of the small gel press. So I'm just going to grab my heat tool. And I'm just going to waft very lightly. Now don't go and take your heat tool directly right down to your gel press. Don't do that. Just hold it a little bit higher up, just to give it a little bit of heat, just so that we can dry that paint a little bit quicker. If you're not in a rush, not a problem. You don't have to dry that paint. Test if it's dry by just dabbing your finger on the edges, just to make sure you're not lifting big sort of clumps of wet paint, because you don't want that anyway. Let's just dry this off, this card. And you can see that you've got a beautiful background there. Just wonderful. Let's move that out of the way, or else you can't see what I'm doing. I'm then going to take the Seed Pods stamp set TE29. And you know, I haven't got the other colour I want to lift. Oh, do you know? So I'm going to take the Seed Pods. Now you can take the whole Seed Pods or the one. So what I'm going to do, let's move these all out of the way. I'm going to take a couple of acrylic blocks. So then I can use both seed pods if I wish. You've also got the acetate that you can use for reference if you wish. And I do love having a little bit of time just to play and not rush. I love it if I don't have to rush, especially if, like me, you put things down, move them out the way and then wonder where they are. It gives you a bit of time just to... So what I'm going to do is just press the seed pod stamp just onto the gel press. I'm just pressing that onto there, just so that we get some kind of impression. And as you can see, we're going to get an impression. The paint will be dry, and let's prove it, nothing comes off there. Wonderful. So what I'm going to do is I'll just wet that, because you've lifted dry paint, because you don't want it to affect. And then you can just see if anything comes off onto your background. Nothing really comes off, but what you're getting is some texture from the paint. So again, it just adds to the whole background. So you can see I've removed that paint, because what I don't want to do is then, if I use it again, place that paint back on there. So I'm then going to use this one, the single one. Let's place that on the gel plate. Now you need to make sure that the paint on the gel press is dry. And it's great when it leaves little bits of paints behind, because that's going to add to the texture. So what you get, if you stamp it on your project, you'll get a little bit of paint left behind. There's even a slight impression on there. It'll just add to another background. Remove that paint and then give that a little bit of a dab. Come back to the seed pods again, and I'm going to use them this way this time so that they're coming off the gel plate, press, whatever you call it. There we go, just so that it removes. Just wonderful. So I'm just going to remove that now, because you can see, look, I'm lifting dry paint. So just wet that, just so that you can lift that up. Please clean your stamps. You don't want to leave that paint on there, mainly because you won't have the detail that you had before. So I'm then going to, let's just dry that a little bit. And then I'm going to, you see now I've got moisture underneath on the desk, so I can't pick anything up. So then I'm going to take, now my thing's in the way, I can just add a little bit here, like so. So I'm just going to press onto my gel press. And you're just lifting some of that paint. And what I would suggest is press firmer in some areas and less firm in others to give you slightly different impressions, because if you don't press as hard, it leaves some paint behind, and if you do press hard, it clears the whole area, so it'll make it look a little bit different. So then I'm going to take the single one and I'm going to add that here. There we go. And you know, I think that's enough. Spritz that with water and I'll just dab this onto this card just to take the extra off, and then give your stamp a really good clean, because you don't want to lose those areas of interest. So let's see what we've got. Can you see? We've now got those sort of lovely seed pods in there. Just wonderful. So I don't know what I'm going to get, but that doesn't matter. That's all part of the fun. I'm then going to take some turquoise paint and I'm going to add a contrast with the turquoise. So I'm going to take the turquoise and just add the turquoise, and then I'm going to place this on here like so, and then I'll lift the page, turn that over, and then I can give a good press. Now, these Dina Wakley paints are nice and rich. If you're going to lift it with a paint that dries too quick, it might not lift quite as easily with just a tiny thin layer of paint. So you can see that my gel press is still stuck on there, and what I can do is lift very sort of slowly and just see. Look what you've got. Just a lovely, lovely print. Looks a bit like a faux cyanotype, doesn't it? Just wonderful, wonderful. So we can take another piece of card. Let's take a piece of card. I don't know whether there's anything on here. There may not be anything on here, but you don't know unless you lift the print. I always seem to brayer my paint out just because then I don't put big clumps of paint just on there. And I love this size gel press because it's easier to handle and much easier if you put it on an acrylic block. Now remember when I said to you, it's up to you if you want to press hard or if you want to press lightly. It's entirely up to you. Yes, there's nothing much on there, but look at the background. What a background. Just fantastic. So if we go back, let's have a look and look at this. If you don't press as hard, you leave behind some of the paint, and that adds to the interest. Oh, that adds to the interest. Now let's say, let's come back to this background and let's pick up some of this paint, because now you're adding a little bit more to those backgrounds. So look how many backgrounds I've made now. Pick up a little bit more of this paint, and I'm now lifting hardly any paint, but it's still making a difference to that background. But you've got 3 lovely backgrounds, no waste. You could also mop this up onto another piece of card, should you wish, and then you've got loads of backgrounds. So my kitchen towel is a bit saturated now, so I shall just grab another little piece. So what I'm going to do now is, because I've got this gel press now, let's put it on an acrylic block, because it's just going to be a little bit easier. Any acrylic block. Now if you wanted to add a little bit more colour to that, not much, so it sticks with the cyanotype, I'm going to take a little bit of the tangerine, because you probably, come on, you probably can't see it, but there is a tiny bit of tangerine on there. Now I don't want to go and oversaturate it with the tangerine, but I can now line that up-ish. And if you're not sure, just put a piece of copier paper below to mark the line. See, I love it. Just a little touch of that orange, not too much. So we can then, you know, this is what I end up doing. I end up with so many backgrounds, but it's wonderful because you just create backgrounds that you can go back to and they look amazing. Kitchen roll. And then I can go back and add a little tiny touch of turquoise. So just take a little tiny touch of turquoise. Not much turquoise, so let's take off the excess, just so I can flatten that out a little bit more, and then I can just go back and add a little bit of turquoise. Just there you go, and it just looks just wonderful. So it's up to you what stage you keep it at, but look at my background now. Isn't that just wonderful? So always have spare pieces of card because it's invaluable really what you get. It's wonderful. So whilst we're here and we're playing, shall we just do something? We haven't obviously finished this, but look at that. I absolutely adore that. But shall we put something on the opposite side that we can then work on, or you can work on at a later date? So again, let's grab another piece of the card and let's take this stamp from TE30. It's got beautiful texture on there. Got my birds falling off, my background falling off. It's doing really well. So that's TE30. Now, don't do it the opposite way round. So if you want, we can do it the opposite way round. So let's add some turquoise, a little bit of tangerine, and we'll take forever just to... And you can see I've sort of got the colours separately, and then I just blend them and bring them to the gel press. So we'll leave that on one side. I'm trying to keep everything. So we'll just pick up our extra bits of paint. And then we'll just clean. Obviously, like I did in the previous bit, you can obviously spritz that with water and you can lift that paint onto another piece of card if you wish. But you can see why when you're using the gel press, you can make lots of backgrounds at the same time, and why not? So I'm just going to give this a little bit of a dry. Just so I know that that's not wet at all. And then I'm going to take the seed pods, which I wasn't meaning to take the seed pods. Oh, dear me. So I didn't want to take the seed pods, and because I'm so engrossed, it's not the seed pods I want. Dear, dear. Obviously, you can use the seed pods if you wish, but Tracy wanted to use, oh, do you know, I'm slinging everything everywhere. This stamp set here. With the texture. You know, and instead of being lazy, let's clean the back of that just so that it sticks again. There we go. Let's clean the back of the birds so that that sticks again. Now, do I go? We'll carry on with what we've got. It is what it is. So I stamped the seed pods in there, didn't mean to. So I'm using this hydrangea skeleton flower just to add some textures. Whether it's picked up that, I don't know. So you can never really tell. And because I've got 4 different petals, I don't need to wipe the paint off because I can use the different petals. There may be little bits of texture on there. Let's place some in I've even gone over the seed pods now, and then I'm going to put the seed pods. Let's just add, because you don't want it all the same. Let's add a little bit of texture. So it's entirely up to you which stamps you use, and at the end of the day, if you don't like it, you can go over it with some paint. It's not a problem. Right, let's see what we've got. That's definitely dry. That's for sure. I wonder if we can press some texture. Let's see what we've got. But before we do anything, let's give that stamp a little bit of a clean. We should remember that you've got fine detail on there. And you don't want to leave that paint on there. And I can show you sort of on this scrap of cotton. Oh, I'm forgetting these now. Just wipe that paint off. It will not affect your stamps, and you can wipe it off nice and easily. And you can see how much texture is in this stamp. Just make sure you've got the paint off there. Let me grab my Barley Blue VersaFine Clair, and I'll just ink one area of the stamp up, just so you can see the detail in that. They could be wings, they could be anything you wanted, but you can just see the detail in those. They're just gorgeous. Let's place that back, and it looks amazing just stamped on its own. It's just wonderful. And I'm just being mindful of making sure that all that paint is off there. And you know, every time I look, I see another little bit. There we go. So I've got this now. We know it's dry. We definitely know it's dry. Can't pick it up because we've got moisture underneath. That's it. So then I'm going to use a little bit of cocoa. Let's move that out of the way. And the buff. More of the buff than the cocoa. Let's grab our card if we want to take any excess off. So I'm going to now place this onto my piece of card, and then going to lift that up like I did before, turn that over, and just give that a rub. Just so that we can just make sure that makes good contact. And then you can't lift the page. Try not to lift it. That's it. It's because I was grabbing 2 pages at once. So you can then lift that and see if it's left an impression. Oh yes, lovely, 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 lovely. Let me show you. let's just remove any paint that's on here, which I don't think will be that much. But this is on the card where I wet the paint and picked it up. I've now added another layer of texture. This is why I love playing with the gel press. Just brings me joy. So if we lift this up now, how wonderful is that? Just for a print. So that gives me another page that coordinates with this one, and I can do that another time. So we've now got this page that we can add a little bit more detail to. Just give my brayer a little bit of a wipe, just so that I've not got thick layers of paint on there. There we go. Just wonderful. I love playing with the gel press. I'm then going to grab, where are you? I'm going to grab TE11, which is Background Elements, one of my favourite stamps, which I'm sure you know by now. And then I'm going to add a little bit of text, just a little bit. So on there are sort of the days of the week. So I'm just going to add a little bit of, I love it when you can pick a little bit from the stamp. Let me show you. So on there it's got the days of the week. And I can just add a little bit of stamping here and there. And it's also got hidden a couple of sort of months and the notes word, which I can then add around about here. Oh, just love it. Look, just hidden inside. Oh, just to make me happy. So what I'm going to do then is we will take the seed pods. I'll just take the one single seed pod, and then I'm going to grab some scrap white card. And at the moment now, because we do thrunches and everything else, there's not much scrap card that I really have, to be honest. So I'm then going to take the turquoise, a little bit of the orange, and I'm going to faff. I think my orange is running out, but I'm so determined that I just don't waste. And then it doesn't make it interesting watching for you. Come on. There we go. And I'm just going to add a little bit of buff. And I'm going to just add this paint. And I'm just going to spritz with a little bit of water. And I'm just going to add that to my card. Wonderful, wonderful. You can even have second generation as well. Again, you can use the rest of this paint to pick up and create another background. If I create any more backgrounds, there literally won't be any space on my desk. But I mean, you're used to that now anyway. So let's just move this out of the way. Let's grab a clean wipe. this is what, for me, I love about stamping. It's just such a joy. Getting into these wipes isn't a joy, seriously. I mean, they're the stupidest design. Just open. It could be user error, but we won't mention that. So we've got these little seed pods now, and then I'm going to take my barley blue, and then let's sort of coordinate with what we've got in the background. I'm just going to add a little bit of stamping. You only want a little bit of the stamping, that's first and second generation, just so that you can see that. With the barley blue, and then I'm going to cut these out. I'm leaving a slightly white border around the seed pods. And if you think on this stamp set, let me grab it. Trying to do it with one hand. On this stamp set, is the word seed pods. You can also use that with your TE40, with the TE40 with the poppy seed head. Spit it out. Sorry, but words just fail me. So let's just add a little bit. Now you've got that acrylic paint on there, so you're going to need to dry the VersaFine Clair ink, because it's sitting on that acrylic paint. But even that is a little notelet there, just with the text on. Just wonderful. So you're going to need to dry the VersaFine Clair, particularly on the first generation print, because that is a little bit wet, and it's going to stay wet because you've worked on a surface that is no longer porous. There we go. So let's bring these in and let's just give that a dry. It's just worth giving it a little bit of a dry, just because it will just stop you smudging that. And you know, I can still see it's a little bit wet now. There we go. So just have a little play around. You obviously don't want to hide the text that you've just added to there. Well, I don't. I want it to still be visible, and I just want to get it just right, just so that we don't cover everything up. And if I don't want to move the position of something because I know I won't put it back in the right place, that's easily solved. So I'll just put a little bit of adhesive there, little bit, and you can see I've not lifted them off the page, I've left them there, and I can move them a little bit if I want. Then I can just put a little bit of adhesive, just because I've got this little glue applicator, it works quite nicely. So I can just hold that down, Tracy. Just give that a little. I've stuck the two together, but obviously not the bottom of the. There we go. Always just clean your glue applicator, just so you've not got no glue left on the edge. Can you tell? It's because I've got paint underneath there and I've only used a teeny bit of glue. There we go. Just so you can see the seed pods. Now I'm going to add one in the brown. Let's take, honestly, can you see how I'm working in a minuscule space? Little bit of the cocoa and a little bit of buff. And I've probably got an airlock on there, but we'll sort that later. And you can see I'm not sort of going for perfection when I'm stamping the seed pods. I'm sort of making sure that it is a little bit more organic and not perfect, although that looks pretty perfect to me. So let's give that a little bit of a dry. What makes me laugh is I don't know where the time goes when I'm doing things like this. When I'm just having a little bit of a play. Let's move that. And you can also do your, let me show you. See, this is my problem. I just can't stop playing. So we could ink the seed pod with Portobello. Let's hope it's not too juicy. I can place the text stamp onto there. Let's move this off here. Bring this down. Look, you've got the text inside your seed pod. Oh, so many possibilities. It's just amazing. And I added the second generation of the text after I'd pressed it onto the seed pod, just to the seed pod. Spot the person that's enjoying themselves. And if you haven't quite got enough text on there, well, you can go back and add a little bit more. You can either see if your stamp has got any ink left, which mine has. I don't know whether there's anything left on here, but let's always play. You sort of don't know what you'll end up with. Look at this, like very shadow text one. But again, they could all be used in your artwork quite easily. And I've got a little bit of text on there. I'm just going to add this one here. I've still got the word notes on there. Looks quite nice, actually. So you can see I'm not covering up that text. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Portobello, take those days of the week or whatever, and I'm just going to use the second generation. So take off the first generation, and then I'm just going to add the second generation. Just love that. And then I'm going to go where it's got notes and some months. Take off the first generation and just add a little bit of that wonderful. It never needs much at all. I'm then going to, I've got that many backgrounds now, I can't actually see where my little pencil is. So I'm going to take a little bit of shading down here. We'll take a little bit of shading onto these here. Just give it a little bit of shading. Let's grab our brush and a little bit of water. And we'll just add a little bit of shading. And this, the page, it just moves on this just wonderfully. Now this text won't move because that's a permanent ink pad. Just giving a little bit of shading. Just there. And let's add that. And then I'm going to, first of all, tidy up a little bit. Just move some of the stamps because I've literally got stamps everywhere. And then we'll go to stamp set TE32. And then again, I can use my acetate. You can always use your acetate as a guide. And I'm going to add a little pheasant. And we want black ink. So we'll take our black ink. Lots of tapping. Make sure it's not going to fall off on your project. And all you have to do is ask yourself why. So we just add our pheasant. And I'm just giving that a few moments just to grab hold. Just so that it sort of soaks onto the surface of the card. There we go. And as you can see, because obviously I've got a cut out there, just come in and just add, there we go. Just so that we've got our pheasant on there, which looks brilliant there. And then let's take some splatters, and we can add some splatters. I'm using a Posca pen. This is the larger one. You can use gesso, watered down acrylic paint. I use my Posca pens, just easy to grab hold of, and it just works quite well. So we've got that on there, and then let's just place this back. We'll go back to the seed pods. Which could be anywhere now. There you go. So we've got the seed pods. Now it's up to you if you cut that out or you add it direct to your project. It's entirely up to you. Or test it and see which you prefer. So I'm going to take the black. I'm just going to add this here. I really don't need to press hard. Such a small. Now, I'm quite happy with that, but it doesn't stand out, does it? So we will stamp it onto our card. And that's what I mean about just test it and play around a little bit. You know, that might be what you want. You know, at the end of the day, it's your project. I'm going to add this here. Let's cut that out. Tracy trying not to put her arms in camera, not always easy. There we go. So it's not sort of too bulky either, so it doesn't sort of detract from the focal imagery. So place that there. Lovely. Clear the end, and then I just leave my finger there. Obviously you can give this a bit of time just to dry. I love using this Inktense pencil on acrylic paint because it just blends out beautifully, especially if you've got the right card. And then if we have a look at our page, I just love that. Something nice and simple but textural, but you've also got the other page as well. Isn't that just wonderful? I absolutely love it. And it doesn't have to be overcomplicated either. I like it just as it is. If I decide I want to add something else, I'll add something else when I look at it. I mean, you could use the little tag from TE32 and just put a tag with a little S on. But I really like it like that. So I hope you've enjoyed the process with me in a little playtime. Love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.